Hello, everybody. Welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, the Bouse, and this is Maintaining Frame number 40. Gen Z asked the question, do cis women need rights? Where we're going to be... What?
I'm just eyeing. Oh my
Yeah.
god. It's so edgy.
Is it?
Yeah, how we've titled this so edgy.
Yeah.
But not clickbait, because we are going to deliver. We're going to deliver a discussion on this issue.
Yeah. So...
All right.
So we're going to be looking at that article, and if we have time, there's another one that we could dive into as well. This is an article that comes from Yahoo News, and it's entitled "Women's Rights Have Gone Too Far," say majority of Gen Z and millennials, according to a study. So we'll see what they have to say. Before we get started, though, I'm going to ask you guys to hit that like button now so that we know. I got 14 likes and 20 people. I know that number's going to climb as we, do the show. Yesterday we had about 100 or so that's good. And you'll notice that the stream is running fine. We're not going to have any problems, I don't think. So, Allison, do you want to say anything before we get into it?
Before we launch?
Yeah.
Any final words? Oh, I shouldn't use the word
F,
the F word. Damn it. Oh my God, no. We're still doing the stream. That isn't over. Yes, because as soon as you say words that have finality, those words, people are like, oh my God, the stream is over. I have to leave. Hopefully you guys are not like that. You realize that there's a lot. We have a lot to say, and it's going to continue for a while. All right, so we are having our monthly fundraiser. And thanks to some people who messaged me, I found out that there was a problem with the fundraiser last Friday, so I fixed that. So if you were like, oh my God, I can't donate to this because it's only giving me the $1,000 option, that's fixed. Please go to feedthebadger.com/support and put a few shekels in the hat to make sure that we can continue on with this message. And I will give shout outs to anybody who supports us through the stream. So just take a moment. I know that's usually the big resistance, is that you just don't want to leave our dulcet voices.
Yeah.
Is dulcet the right word?
Dulcet tones.
You can't tear yourself away from our wit and insight to go to feedthebadger.com/support and put whatever you can in the hat. Every bit is appreciated. $5, $10, $50, what you can do to make sure we can keep going. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/support, and I will be doing shout outs during the show, and I might do some arm twisting at the half hour, depending on how arm twisty I feel. All right.
So let's take a look at today's article or study, subject matter.
Oh, wait, one more thing.
What?
If you want to send us a message, feedthebadger.com/just the tip, and those tips go to keeping the Badger Cave afloat. So please do that. feedthebadger.com/just the tip.
Oh, by the way, I did get a Rumble rant yesterday, and I missed it. It may have come in after the stream was over. I'm not sure. So, because then in Rumble you can continue to super chat people after it's over, which is weird because then they might not see it. Or they certainly won't be able to read them out on the live show and the current show because the show has ended. So anyway, Josh Chasen, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, gave us $1 and said, "Your own work is a hedge thought/beyond." Not sure what that means, but I'm going to take it as a compliment. So thank you, Josh, for the kind words. I don't know. It's a hedge thought/beyond. It sounds complimentary.
Okay, you're going to go with that.
It sounds
with that
interpretation.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't sound complimentary. I can't really parse it at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it is meant to be.
It's just another one of them, to send through that you just can't. This is the thing.
They send us these, puzzle box messages, and then we have to somehow translate them. But I'll do my best. It's fine. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, Yahoo News from the Telegraph. So originally from the Telegraph. So not necessarily like a BS website. I mean, not more than your normal sort of mainstream media site, but it's not like, I don't know, Upworthy or something. All right. Women's rights have gone too far, say majority of Gen Z and millennials, study shows. Now they're not saying feminism, they're saying women's rights. So I don't know, that might matter. Women's rights have gone too far, the majority of Generation Z and millennials believe, according to a new research. Some 52% of Gen Z and 53% of millennials, gotta pump those numbers up, those are rookie numbers, say society has gone so far in promoting women's rights that it is discriminating against men. A survey by Ipsos UK and the Global Institute for Women's Leadership at King's College London found. In contrast, 4 in 10, 40% of baby boomers and 46% of Gen X said the same. I weep for my generation. More than half of all men, 55%, held this opinion compared to 41% of women. Any thoughts on anything so far?
It's good to see those numbers going up.
Yeah.
Also, of course, wouldn't you? I mean, women aren't going to have firsthand experience of the prejudices and disenfranchisement of men. So it's quite likely that they're going to say, but of course, as a result of some of that disenfranchisement, we consider it that the women are more accurate than the men on this score. So I can imagine that people are reading this and saying, 50% of men are sexist against women because they think that they now experience disenfranchisement.
Yeah.
And they can't be allowed to do that because reasons. We no matter how much rights and privileges we lump into the female category, we never exceed equality.
No.
We never even approach equality for women.
No.
Every woman could be living in, I don't know, a moon condo with gold toilets, and every man could be scrubbing her floor, and we still wouldn't have equality because, I don't know, men have better cardio.
Yeah. It always comes.
Find a way.
Yeah.
I
was just gonna say it does. A lot of times the most unfair inequalities are a product of nature, and that's the thing that feminists complain about. Like, why are men the ones that are stronger? For example.
Mm-hmm. But so I'm imagining that people are reading this thinking that the men are just the problem is that the men are too sexist, saying that they're dealing with disenfranchisement, and the women are accurate, even though what we're really talking about is not do women have too many rights, but do women have too many rights over men? That's really what this is about. Okay, you can continue.
Yeah, and well, the other thing is that the promotion, what I think is what people are sensing might not necessarily be like the expansion of women's rights, but more so the discrimination against men, especially in the UK, because they're making all kinds of crazy things illegal, like flirting and staring and following women. And so men, the average man that would never do that is essentially feeling like he's feeling like a monster. And I think that most men can sense that there's something wrong with the way the laws are being written. And I think that that's the part where, it's not a women's right to essentially just get a man arrested because she doesn't like the way his tone is or whatever. It's actually like the reverse. It's actually like let's say it's discrimination against men. So
yeah, what you're saying is that these aren't necessarily women's rights. These are a lack of rights.
Yeah.
Men don't have the right to essentially say, well, I have the ability to have free speech in public.
Yeah, or it's just like you said, it's just like hostility. And that's
or I have the right
to
presumption of innocence and to the expectation, if I'm charged with a crime, that there be some kind of intent to do that crime.
Yeah, and of course it gives them carte blanche to violate men's rights, like like you said, the right to a trial,
free speech,
and all of that. Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, in contrast, yeah, I already read that. More than half of all men, 55%, held this opinion compared to 41% of women. I'm impressed that that number is that high for women. I wonder, I know it sounds like I'm just like shitting on women here, but I wouldn't have thought it was that high. But I guess it would depend. We'd have to look at the study to see what the particulars were, like if they're within a certain, they're doing generations. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe it's the Zoomers then. Meanwhile, 43% of people in Britain believe men are now discriminated against because of the promotion of women's rights. Now, again, I think this is not really about rights. This is about, because what rights do women not have in Britain that men have? Like, what are the rights? What are we talking about when we say that? And I think it's not that it's like, I think it's an important distinction because what's going on is like a disproportionate discrimination against men, not necessarily like, the promotion of rights for women, because they have them all. You got all the rights. There's no rights left. Yeah. We're all out of rights. You have them. They're in your so in how your are possession. You still whining about it,
Yeah, I actually spoke with a feminist. His name was let me see if I can. Oh, actually, it was Hugo Schweitzer. I'm pretty sure. Either that or ampersand. Yeah, I had this debate with Hugo Schweitzer in like 2000, I think 5 maybe. It might have even been as early as 2003. And I said, name a right that women don't have and men do, and he couldn't.
Of course.
Except for like go topless in some places.
Yeah, but is that a right though?
Really.
I don't. That's the thing. It might be like I don't even know what you call it. A privilege? Mm. And do we like it when men walk around shirtless? So like, I don't know.
Yeah. But the point was that he couldn't name one. Mm-hmm. Way back when, like there's some people, I've had this argument longer than some people are alive on our Discord or listen to us in our audience, and they still have not come up with a single damn right that women don't have that men have. Yeah. So they've been and they never measure the situation for men. So they've been shoveling the rights onto that men never had. Like do men have the right to go up to a woman and say, I don't like your tone, go to jail. I don't like the way you're looking at me. Go to jail. Don't come up and talk to me. You go to jail now. Straight to jail. Don't follow me because I think you're following me. You go to jail. Straight to jail. No. Straight to jail. And in fact,
right away
under this Scotland, this proposed legislation in Scotland in which men can be jailed for flirtation or treating women separately from men. If you treat a woman differently than a man and she alleges you do that, you could go to jail for 7 years in Scotland.
Yeah.
Absurd. And specifically, they say, yes, this doesn't apply to women.
No, they said this is about fighting misogyny.
Well, the only thing I can say is that it's actually a bit of a relief that as they make it basically illegal to be a man in Scotland, there is now a legal out for men. Because you just have to go and identify as a woman. Really, it's horrible that men have to abandon their own identity. But if they put this law into place, that's going to be my recommendation for your own personal safety. Just start checking off the female box so that you get some kind of legal defense. If some malicious female actor decides that you aren't, how do you even determine? He didn't treat me like he would have treated a man, Your Honor.
Yeah.
How do you even determine such a thing?
That's gonna blow up in their faces. if it isn't already. Um,
I don't know how. Like, it's just getting more and more ridiculous. And the funny thing is that it usually is just a delay of a few years before this shit trickles into the U.S.
mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it probably already exists in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep going.
All right. So anyway, yeah, I'm pleased to see the numbers going up, and especially in women. That's actually like shocking to me. The survey conducted for International Women's Day. Oh, so it was conducted for International Women's Day. Ouch. Also found that people in Britain are increasingly afraid of promoting women's rights for fear of reprisals. From who? What are you talking about? The share of the British public who say they are scared to speak out and advocate for the equal rights of women has doubled since 2017, rising from 14% to 29%. The majority, 71%, however, continue to say this does not apply to them. I mean, what? We've been
honestly, shouldn't they be scared? Like, at this point, you're asking for well beyond equality.
Yeah. But I mean, like, what do they, like, reprisals? Go ahead.
Completely morally indefensible. They probably mean like people actually use the things that we talk about to say, hey, wait.
Yeah.
And which is a good thing, because what we talk about is based in reality. It's actually just measuring the male side to determine equality, which is something that's been omitted for the past 50 years. Mm-hmm. For 50 years, we've been pursuing equality without measuring one side. And then there's us who talk about that side and say, well, could you measure it before you say there's inequality? But that the other side that you constantly measure is just unequal to the side that you never measure? I mean, could you do that? And people are saying that to individuals who are so-called advocating for women's rights, and they're calling that reprisal. Mm-hmm. No, that's reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
You step on the rake, it hits you in the head. That's reality. It's not a reprisal by the rake.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just saying that what do you expect? Like, this whole article is framed in a way, it suggests that this finding is awful, and it doesn't understand that when a majority of people, men, and a significant minority of women are like, you've gone too freaking far, mm-hmm. and then you say, but we haven't gone far enough. Men still don't wear shackles in public and ball gags. And they're like, but actually men face problems too, which you never measure. Oh, reprisals!
Yeah.
The backlash! Yeah, at what point does the backlash at all legitimate? That means you're an out-of-control train. You have mm-hmm. no brakes. Your mm-hmm. brakes are the backlash. That means you don't even know if you've overshot equality, and lots of people are now agreeing that you have. But of course, the article frames it as reprisal, as if it could never be legitimate to question the excesses of feminism or women's rights activists.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it put, because when they say people in Britain are increasingly afraid of promoting women's rights for fear of reprisals, it suggests that it's not just disagreement, but there's some kind of like threat that they're afraid of. Because if it's just somebody saying, I think you're wrong, that, you know, there shouldn't be any reason to fear that. But they are suggesting that there is something to fear. So younger generations tend to be most fearful, with Gen Z, 38%, around twice as likely as baby boomers, 19%, to feel this way. Well, maybe they've been conditioned. I mean, the Zoomers are like in their early 20s now, I think. And which makes me feel ancient. So if they've like had regular education, consume media, there's probably, at least for the percentage that are afraid, because I think there's a much bigger percentage of Gen Zers that are just like, this has gone too far, and then there's like this minority, because it's like what, the 38% of the percentage of, you know, Gen Zers that believe that we do need to continue to advocate for women. So I don't know.
Maybe what they mean is, well, I mean, obviously it makes sort of sense, because as the Gen Z and the millennials start to resist this, well, let's be freaking honest. We're well past equality in the law.
Yeah.
We're now basically handing women powers over men that turn men into chattel. Literally chattel.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it just from a pure legal standpoint, what gender can obligate the other gender to labor for it? What gender can obligate the other gender to moderate their tone of voice, determine when they're allowed to speak, who they're allowed to speak to, what constitutes that speech? In other words, they get to interpret that speech in whatever way they think it is, and also whether or not they can be looked upon. Which gender has these powers now? Okay, almost unchecked, because we do not accept the idea that gender could ever lie or make a false accusation.
Yeah. Or weaponize this in any way.
I mean, look at this. Who in the relationship between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, who was treated like chattel?
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the most powerful men in the world, even more powerful in terms of his social clout than a lot of billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? If Bill Gates' wife punched him a few times in the head, I don't think anybody would really care that much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we on principle I would care, but most people wouldn't, because he is a specimen, shall we say? I won't get into any deep insulting language. He is a specimen. But Johnny Depp is beloved, so he has even more social clout than someone like Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Even more ability to influence social attitudes.
Oh, for sure.
And he was absolutely wiped. He was absolutely bodied by Amber Heard, who's basically a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was a woman and he's a man. So you tell me, in the relationship in Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, which one of them was legally treated like chattel by the media, by the law, by Hollywood? Which one's opinion reigned supreme, despite actual evidence of the reverse? Her opinion of him reigned over it still does. Her opinion of him, despite being discredited in a court of law, still is the mainstream opinion. What is that? If not, she owns him.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree, but I was thinking, that's the thing that's tricky, because the media and like activists and a decent chunk of Twitter does believe Amber Heard, but it could be that there is more support for Johnny Depp, but it's just being like covered up. It's being concealed. And part of the reason for that is to demoralize supporters of Johnny Depp, because then they feel like, well, I guess I'm the only one or one of very few. But that I don't know. I mean, like, the trial was, it was everywhere. Everyone could see it. I don't know how any reasonable person could walk away from that thinking that, oh yeah, Amber Heard was robbed. Like, but yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying, like, if you actually look at the outcome of the relationship, illegal relationship between men and women in our society, and considering that not only is a man's obligations to his wife not ended with divorce, but often they become more onerous and more inflexible with divorce. Like, what is that except a form of bondage?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, how dare. Well, I mean, let's really look at this. So when the millennials and when Gen Z are saying, oh, hey, we've gone too far, that's what they're looking at, because I guarantee they all have an experience of a male family member or a friend who has been absolutely destroyed by family courts.
Mm-hmm.
They all do. I mean, almost everybody does now. There's no corner where this hasn't infested. So they know. So when they hear this, they're like, no, it's gone too far. And then in that generation, they're pushing back. And by pushing back, they call it reprisals or whatever, retaliation. No, it's just, I guarantee for the most part, it's just logic and personal experiences which they refuse to acknowledge, which the individuals who are pushing this constant drumbeat of female victimhood refuse to acknowledge. So they're pushing back with reality. And they're calling it reprisals. Well, good for them. I mean, those two generations, they get a lot of crap, especially from older generations. But maybe they should get a bit of credit that they're seeing through this bullshit. Mm-hmm. And they're starting pushing back against it. Now, I want to take them all the way to the dark side of the force. I want them to know that this was always bullshit. There was no point in time where women were oppressed.
Yep.
Not even when they didn't have the vote, because they did not have the obligations to the state that men had.
Yep.
Okay. Women have always occupied the safest and most provided for position in society. Now, that may mean that they're excluded from the accolades and the status of being on the edge and protecting everyone inside it.
Mm-hmm.
But the trade-off is there. That doesn't mean they're oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, no other group of people throughout history who were genuinely oppressed occupied the safest and most well-provided for area of society.
Yeah.
They weren't the ones who were most likely to eat 3 square meals a day and not end up with a herniated back from breaking rocks in a field, or an arrow through their chest from being up front in war. Okay?
Yep.
So yeah, there were legal trade-offs, but in terms of practical realities, women were always the safest and always the best provided for. Until they met the other tribes' men. And then that shit gets bad very quickly. Mm-hmm. But then again, it also gets bad. It's usually that happens when your tribe's men is already dead and genocide, castrated and raped, and then shoved in a pit. So, okay.
All right.
That would be dark.
That's cheerful. I have some Rumble rants. So some people have sent through some donations through Rumble, and I have a super chow. So I'm going to read that. NovaFan21 gives us $1. I don't know if it's because we're limited in how much we can they can select, and he writes, I know there's overlap between tradcons and TERFs for how both groups treat men and women, but which group do you think would get rid of trans rights when enough guys escape traditional roles? Then there's a part 2, which is another Rumble rant for $1. Specifically, which group would either do it first or which group would be the dominant group? And I'm asking about non-trans men simply identifying as trans women, even going as far as legally. It probably won't be long, in my opinion. Men will, because if enough men start identifying as women so that they can just get out of, the bullshit that's affecting them, and they can be treated like human beings, then they will it will probably be shortly. If it looks like it's getting out of hand, I don't know. I think right now it's still a very small minority that, does this, that we see. And even small, and that's just of trans women, but there's an even smaller minority of trans women that are doing it specifically for the benefits, as opposed to, other reasons, gender dysphoria, autogynephilia, or whatever it is. So, that's my thought. I don't know if Allison wants to add to that or whatever.
If I think that who will do it first,
I think
TERFs or
TERFs or the tradcons.
Honestly, I actually think the liberal feminists are going to win this one because they always win. Mm-hmm. Remember how we were years ago. The Cologne incident, where there were supposedly these mass rapes of women, German women.
Yeah.
And I said, let's wait until let's see what comes out of the legal system. You know, what happens, what they're charged with, and what sticks. And on that stream, it's probably one of the most downvoted streams I've ever done, or we've ever done. And a whole bunch of people said, "Is this the hill you want to die on? Defending due process rights for those men that we don't like." And then a lot of those were conservatives. You know, it was like one of the big things that made a schism, I suppose, between us and conservatives, because get this, we promote due process rights for all men and all people who are being treated like men, which includes trans women. And that's that. Like, we just defend due process rights for men. So if this is the situation, well, let's wait till the legal, and again, we supposedly died on that hill. Now nobody talks about that anymore, or very few people talk about that anymore.
Yeah, it's old news now.
It's old news now.
Yeah,
and that's what I've noticed about conservatives. And there was people like liberals on our side who were like, "Oh, we got to defend these poor defenseless babies, Middle Eastern babies who have been and I mean, we don't look at it that way either, right? I mean, if they are responsible for it, we should be pursuing justice. And the liberals, like, they were championing this cause. The conservatives fought, and then just it's gone. It's old news. The conservatives don't even talk about it anymore. In fact, they're probably welcoming Muslims because they're actually better at fighting the trans and LGBTQ agenda. So what I've noticed is that traditionalists are basically they will just forget about it, and they'll kick up a stink about the next thing that the liberals are trying to push, and then they'll forget about it, and then they'll kick up a stink about the next thing that the liberals are trying to push, and then they'll forget about it. You know, so you can't really expect them to be able to do anything, to be honest, because they'll just forget about it.
Yeah.
And the TERFs, they got legs. You know, they probably got some staying power, but in the face of our society's need to see women as vicariously victims through minorities, I think that's never, like, you're basically up against the very fabric of our society in terms of opposing trans rights. So they're going to get what they want. And also they're going to make it very, very easy for men to identify as women while doing nothing. And and who do I think will be able to stop that? I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think the conservatives or the TERFs are going to be able to. Yeah. They're up against forces that are so fundamental in our society that, I mean, we are up against those forces. We're up against them, and we fought against them for how many, like 9 years? Like, Honey Badger Radio, I've done it for 20 years. You know, I know the extent of these forces, and TERFs will eventually bend, and the conservatives will just eventually just go find the next thing that they complain about.
They'll compromise, or they'll move on to something else.
Or they'll just drop it. Like, haven't you noticed this? Like, this new thing that everybody's talking about, and then 3 months later it's dropped. And we're on to the next step in the step towards the cliff. And then people just drop it, and nothing ever gets addressed. Well, it's because nobody actually is talking about the fundamental forces that are driving all this. Anyway,
I just want to ask Nova Fan, when you say what would get rid of trans rights, like, what are trans rights? Because trans people, like, they have all the rights. We don't have any more rights. They have them. They have the rights. But if you're talking about just like their like how well accepted they are in, you know, I don't know, in our wider society, that isn't something that can be fixed with activism and statism. That's something that has to happen on an individual level. So you want to, I would like for you to explain what you mean by trans rights. I know this is something that activists say, but I think it's meaningless, because again, they have the rights that we have. They can vote. They have freedom of speech. They can bear arms. It's all there. They just do it, while they're wearing a man's clothes if they're a woman, which is basically just clothes. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, you can send me another super chat if you like. I would be curious, because I think that the language is getting in some ways out of control. We're using words that that don't make sense, and I think that it's a trap. Like, if you start speaking that language, you're gonna end up in a trap. So all right, anyway, moving on. So yeah, younger generations tend to be more fearful. Gen Z twice as likely as baby boomers to feel this way. Almost 2 in 5 people in Britain believe that men are expected to do too much to support equality. Okay, I mean, that's a significant percentage that think that. An increase on 29% in 2019. So like, the numbers are rising, and I think that well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do think that people are more and more seeing, like, what the situation for men, and I think that a lot of it has to do with these conversations online, like the one that we're having right now, in my opinion. And I know that it somehow it gets out, because I've heard people say they like that do other channels, like the guy on the Whatever podcast that's really popular right now, or Just Pearly Things, which is also really popular. Those are, Zoomers talking mostly about dating and relationships. But when the issue of men's issues comes up, I've heard them say things that we have said, that on this channel. I'm not saying we're the first ones to do it, but I'm saying that the word appears to be getting out in some way. So,
well, I was surprised when Just Pearly Things totally axed that argument that feminists were making. Well, she was saying, well, how are you discriminated against as a woman? And they kept bringing up, well, I'm black, I'm disabled, and she was, but that's how are you as a woman? And that is something that we have talked about, a lot, that they have to append these other forms of victimhood to themselves in order to maintain their vision of themselves as victimized. Yeah. And in order to do that, they actually have to hide the victimization of black men and disabled men and men who are considered unattractive. Like, they have to ignore and hide it in order to present themselves as unique victims of these things, because they're women. Yeah. And that's basically and this is the fundamental force that I'm talking about. The desire for these women to feel like a victim, these liberal women to feel like a victim, is far more powerful than the church, than the state, than the media, than reality.
Yep.
Because all of them bend to it to varying degrees. And the only way you are going to stop this fundamental force from fundamentalizing your forceness is by challenging this connection that we have made between being female and being a victim, and that we have made between being a man and being invulnerable, which is some of the most difficult work. Like, people talk about, in psychology, there's difficult work that you have to do to overcome certain aspects of what you've learned as a child, or abuse, or et cetera, et cetera. This is the most difficult psychological work for a human being to do, is to question and to analyze and to investigate their gender identity, the identity that comes out of who they think they are in terms of their sex. That's very difficult work. And ironically, the people who think that they have somehow overcome it don't do that work. We do that work. That's why we come to the points where we are at in terms of our thinking, because we've done that work. We've made those challenges of those expectations, and we've looked at the reality. Individuals who talk about being gender fluid, gender non-binary, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they are still driven by the same unexamined instincts the same expectations, the same way that they see that men are invulnerable and men should be defined by the benefit of those who are not men, which they won't define. But they do know. I mean, they don't know what women are, but they do know that men should make sure that those women are taken care of in whatever way taken care of, whatever definition of taken care of, whatever quantity of being taken care of. Don't know what women are, but men need to take care of them. You can see that. You see that everywhere in their writing.
It's okay. That's actually one of the great challenges of all this is that, like you said, like we're fighting some pretty serious programming.
Not just programming, but deep, like instinctual stuff.
Yeah, it's deep. That's what I'm saying. It's like something evolved.
Yeah, I mean, there's something in men that needs to take care of women because women need to be taken care of. And when you have a vulnerable female animal in the wild, nature endeavors to make give her something to overcome those vulnerabilities. And we're doing ourselves absolutely no benefit by denying this. And that's what's freaking hilarious is like all the gender fluid people are like, yeah, that doesn't exist. There's no male or female brain, but whatever a woman is, men need to take care of that. It's like, wait, did you know that you're just doing exactly what I said is your instinct to do? Like, and that's how you know it's an instinct, right? Because they don't escape it at all, even as they're saying, no, we're really sublimating into beings of pure light and energy. Okay. Sorry for interrupting you, Brian.
No, it's okay. So, I was just gonna do the super chow. I got a super chow, and I got another Rumble rant that was a response to me from NobaFan21. So I'll do that, and then I guess you can see if there's any thank yous to give, or if you need to do arm twisting or whatever. So first, I'll do NobaFan, because I asked him if he can help me understand what he means by trans rights, or if he's just sort of like talking about trans activism in general. NobaFan21 gives us $1 and says, to clarify, I'm referring to both trans women and biological men using the female status to get female benefits, such as a father using the trans label to keep their kids from the mother in family court. Yeah, I mean,
honestly, I'm going to tell you something. I really don't. I at this point, go for it.
Yeah.
If the only way that you can see justice done, if the only way you can protect your kids is by exploiting the system, do it.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say use it.
Use it.
Like the thing is, like what Allison said about the fact that like the intersectional feminists are going to win, like they're just going to push forward because that's what they've been doing. I think that ultimately if enough men do that, then the state is going to be like, we should change the laws. Like, hopefully, I don't know. Because if men are just going to use that to get child custody or to get alimony or whatever, right? Then I think it'll just be laid bare. And
which is ironic, actually, now that I think about it. Continue, though.
Yeah, no, and I was just saying on top of that, if it would be a bonus if they said, this is what I had to do to get access to my children, so that people will know. So that's all.
Yeah, and what is ironic about all of this? Maybe that's not the right word use for the word ironic. I hope it is, but I'm sure that there's an English professor somewhere who's screaming at me.
Ironic.
The fact is that the TERFs are calling the trans rights activists men's rights activists. And the liberal feminists are calling the TERFs men's rights activists. Have you noticed that? Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm saying I haven't really seen that to that degree, but I'm sure that happened. Like, I'm sure it happens. I think that TERF was meant to be an insult anyways, so.
It's on Twitter. Okay, so maybe something.
See, I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah, but it's something that I've been seeing. And I was blindsided by this. I'm like, I abandoned Twitter for like a few years, and I come back and suddenly everybody's calling like the two sides of this particular argument men's rights activists. I'm like, wow, we've been busy. Oh wait, this has nothing to do with us. But then when you said that, I realized maybe that this is exactly what they're talking about. When the TERFs get up in arms, they're like, well, don't you realize you're giving men an escape from all of the carefully constructed laws that we have that remove their rights? Like, are you not realizing that? And also an escape from all the carefully constructed rhetoric justifying removing their rights because they're a manifest danger to society and women. Don't you realize that? So maybe that's where them calling trans women men's rights activists comes from. Because
life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, life finds a way. So anyway, I got huh?
Okay. No, go ahead.
I got a super chow. I feel like I should read it.
Yes, we should.
Unless you wanted to say something about something else about Josh Chasen's Rumble rant.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go for it. Don't worry about pulling it off. Make a little bit of effort. All right, so
find something. Why don't you go? There's all kinds of men's styles throughout history that now are coded feminine. Mm-hmm. Just go dress up like Louis XIV.
Yeah, there you go. With the white face paint, like the powder and like the little mold.
The gigantic
That's really important. The mold.
Wig, the gigantic wig, and the pantaloons, the gigantic puffy pants. Just there's lots of inspiration to take from history, and just be like,
you need a pimp cane.
Yeah. Like a heavily embroidered smoking jacket. You take some inspiration from history. And the thing is, you don't even have to identify as a woman. You could just roll up in your Louis XIV getup and say, "I just don't identify. I identify as the essence of French nobility."
Exactly.
What are they going to do? I mean, you're not binary now.
Yeah, there you go. Do that. Okay.
Well, I identify with women's rights, not with being a woman. I just identify with their rights. I'm non-binary.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Great Indoors gives us $10 and says, "This is all so unfair. Women get their own month, meanwhile men get 7 years. Where is the equality, people?" 7 years in prison for boasting about your sexual conquests is what he's referring to. That's the joke.
And women don't get 7 years in prison boasting about their sexual. No, but they get a month
to celebrate.
They don't. Yeah.
Celebrate being a woman.
Even if those sexual conquests are rape. Okay, I do have a thank you to give somebody. Health Potion Addict puts through $100. So thank you, Health Potion Addict, for getting us started this month.
Awesome.
And and once again, if you would like to join our very generous supporters who make sure that this show is able to continue each month, please go to feedthebadger.com/support and you give what you're able to give to ensure that our unique voice remains uniquely unique in its uniqueness. Okay. Let's keep going.
All right.
I think we only have a little bit left, really.
Are we almost at the end?
Yeah. Okay. It's just a little bit of a
well, yeah, I mean, like, there isn't much to say. Unless this was an opinion piece on the study, there's not much to say.
There is a bit of an opinion in there.
Oh, there is. There is. But it's not like like a Guardian article.
No.
Okay, so on a more positive note, so they're already framing this as a whatever this is, excuse me.
A negative. Well, because it's not pro-feminism. People are pushing back.
Feminism, exactly. The research found that almost half of Britons, is it Britons? I don't know. Can now think equality between men and women will be achieved within their lifetime, compared with 40% in 2018, and that percentage now is 47%. But does that mean equality will be achieved within their lifetime, as in women being lifted up even more? What are we talking about? I mean, I think
something
that's what we're
completely
talking
irrelevant. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely undefined. I mean, how many of those people are like, we already have equality? In fact, we're well beyond equality.
Yeah.
How many of that? Maybe that 53, because this is interesting. This is 47%, and 53%
Don't
say that 53% of millennials say society's gone too far promoting. So maybe the 53% think that society has already gone too far.
Yeah.
For women.
Absolutely.
So they don't think that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
this is such a. In a lot of ways, this is a very floofy poll.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. Is that like, polls can be really misleading, and so, like you just can't, like, you have to like take them all with a grain of salt, is what I'm saying. And they're opinion polls, and you have to ask, like, how were the questions framed? What were the questions? How were they answered? Was it just like, I agree, I disagree, or was there like a middle ground? Was like, I'm not sure, and is that one of the answers? So, and how many people were there? What's the sample size? Like, where are they from? Are they all like Londoners? Is that going to change their answers, or are they from all over the country? So there's you have to take them with a grain of salt. But I do think it does give you like a sense of where things are trending, and I mean, for me anyway, it's looking optimistic. I'll just say that. In my opinion.
It's actually good, and I think part of what it is that in many ways the younger generations tend to be more flexible about how they view their gender identity. So they can start to move away from these really fixed ideas of women always being a victim and men all. And you can see how, like, if you're really fixed in this identity, because you're like, you're in your 60s and 70s, and there's no point changing now, right? If you're really fixed in that identity that women are victims and men are judged by how they provide for women, which is, that's an identity that's right in line with our instincts, even though feminism likes to say that it isn't. But if you're fixed in that, you can see how it's difficult to see beyond it. Whereas the millennials and Gen Z maybe are seeing beyond it because they have more flexibility, they have more wiggle room, so to speak, and maybe they're more interested in trying to figure out their reality beyond what authorities tell them. And that's another thing that I've noticed about older people is they do tend to be very drawn to it's so because somebody in a penis hat told me it was so. And you have to listen to the penis hat and the robes and the scepter. People in those
it's like a Pope hat,
Yeah. You have to listen to them because they got the the vestments. They're the ones you have to listen to because they're obviously authoritarian.
Authoritative on the subject.
And you can sort of understand that too, because when you get older, I guess there's less you want to fuck around with. The more that there's less that you want to separate between you and your garden. They're just like, I don't even care. So just this is what it is. I don't even care. Let me go till my soil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway. It is good. It is heartening.
It is.
But not for the people who published this in this.
No, and this isn't from Yahoo News, just to clarify. It is Yahoo News, but it's sourced from the Telegraph. So if don't criticize Yahoo News. Don't shoot the messenger. All right. So anyway,
shoot the message.
Yeah, shoot the message. Kelly Beaver, MBE, the chief executive of Ipsos UK and Ireland, said, Our ongoing research into gender equality shows that we have made significant progress, with nearly half of the people now agreeing equality will be achieved within their lifetime. So they're just going to ignore like what the Zoomers and the millennials are saying. However, there are signs that the public are starting to push back on this progress to date, which is potentially worrying, but may also be a sign that real change is happening in society, and change can often make people uncomfortable and resistant. So, stop resisting, This is gonna happen whether you like it or not.
This
At least
doesn't
that's
make
what
any
they
sense.
believe. Huh?
Why would it be the younger generations that are more resistant to change?
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Okay, so
You
the
thought
older
that was boomer
generations,
shit.
the older generations are like the generation that generally puts into place the things that are changed from, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. And they're trying to say that the younger generation inheriting structures that someone else built are the ones resistant to changing those structures. Does that even make sense? Like, they wouldn't have as much experience with them. It doesn't make sense that the younger generations are resistant to this at all.
Yeah.
It's
What's
just
that beeping
ridiculous.
sound?
Oh, it's our security system.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, it likes to beep
Sound like
a
it was
lot.
coming from inside my room.
Oh,
what the hell
sorry.
is that?
I'm just glad that my dog is. Oh, wait, there he goes. Just a second.
It's all right. I got another. I think there's another. Yeah. Xerax gave us a. Well, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
a few more super chows, and
yeah, I have more super chows, and then we'll. Let me look at Rumble really quick. Nope, nothing there. All right. Xerax gives us $5 and says, I commented to Matt Walsh that his mocking Dylan Mulvaney is basically a wasted effort because Dylan didn't make his position. Doubtful that'll reach him. People mock James Lindsay for saying woke is female, and there are many who think the forceful way men go after things will be what causes positive change. It's like that bit in The Mummy where the guy says he has all the horses and Fraser's character says, "You're on the wrong side of the river." That's the line. I mean, I don't think that Walsh is trying to change Mulvaney's mind, but I don't know. I'm not all that concerned with tone, really.
Well, let me think. Yes, he's right. Because while I'm not all that concerned, I mean, the thing is that we are just sort of floating, watching the, I don't know, Godzilla and what's one of the ones that Godzilla fought?
I don't know, Gamera? No, well,
Gamera?
not really.
Mothra?
Mothra?
Yeah, we're just watching these two fight.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't have a hell of a lot of skin in this game, except maybe there might be a positive outcome if men are desperate enough that they can identify as a woman and actually get rights. But aside from that, we don't really have much skin in this game. But I know who's likely to win. And the problem is that any kind of masculine, like what these women are looking for is an angry man's face to confirm to them that men hate women. Okay? Yeah. So the more that these guys get up in the trans women's face and get angry, the more the liberal women will be, oh my God, it's patriarchy. That's what they really feel about us women. And that's the dynamic. So yes, and then you are fighting against women's victimhood. And there's no man alive who isn't like a psychotic serial killer who can successfully go up against women's victimhood and win.
Jojo, do you hear that?
Yeah.
You can hear the barking. He's like looking at the.
Is Jojo? Are we gonna?
He's
get
in here with me.
We're gonna get a feedback loop of doggos.
I don't know. He doesn't seem like
too
he's
interested.
Gonna respond. He's just staring at the speaker.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So that's my opinion. Like they're feeding into it. Literally the only way you're going to stop this is by just stop obsessively connecting women with victimhood. Stop just gain the power to stop that in its tracks, and that's really difficult for men to do. And I remember watching. I think there was this Christian woman on Jordan Peterson, and she talked about how Roman society, female victimhood wasn't wasn't good or wasn't seen as, or was opposed. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, was she complaining about it?
I don't know if she was complaining about it, but she was talking about how Christianity institutionalized protecting women's sexuality when before a woman had to have male relatives to protect her, which is very true. So I think she's like a feminist apologist for Christianity. But I'm like, a society that keeps women's victimhood in check, as far as I can tell from history, is successful society.
SPQR.
And the other thing is that Rome was, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's like the patriarchal bastion, but honestly, women in Rome had more freedom than women anywhere in the ancient world.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were a lot of female cloistering customs that didn't exist so much in Rome, and Rome had a lot of Roman women had a lot of freedom economically.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the Salic law that's based on, I think, Frankish law is what deprives women of the ability to inherit, whereas in those places in Europe that was based more on Roman law, you'll see women inheriting royal titles during the Middle Ages. So Roman law was not as oppressive as it's made out to be, although maybe Roman society was a little skeptical about women's victimhood. Jesus, it sounds like fucking paradise to me. This is why I'm a Roma boo, seriously. Okay.
All right, so that is...
Is that it?
That's Xerax, and then Great Indoors gives us, and you might have to like confirm what this is, but it says $10, $100.
Yeah, I think what that is the Great Indoors gave us $100 for the fundraiser, so thank you, Great Indoors.
Oh, it's like
and then $10. Okay. Yeah, it just lists it in the same transaction because of the way that I put it through.
And then he says, did my previous Super Chow, the one that got quarantined by PayPal, ever get through, by the way? Just wondering what happened to it. I don't know. I mean, if it's quarantine, I can't see it, but Allison might be able to.
I think it did come through. It did come through. Let me see if I can find it, if there was anything that came through with it. Because I think it just came through as an amount.
Okay.
It didn't have a comment, so I can't... If you were hoping for us to read the comment, I'm going to have to...
You can, if you need to, you can just tag me in the chat with what you meant to say.
No, it has no comment.
It has no comment.
Yeah.
So it's just money?
It has no comment.
All right.
It was just the moolahs, yes. Okay, so again, if anybody wants to help support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. Thank you to Great Indoors and Health Potion Addict for helping, for sending in the health potion. Very, very much appreciated. Okay.
All right.
Paragraph.
So, Duncan Alexander in a super chat just now gave us 140 ZAR, or which is like a Zimbabwean currency, and writes, "Thank you for the content." Heart emoji. So thank you, Duncan Alexander. Really appreciate it. These small words of encouragement actually mean a lot. You know, well, yeah, because it helps us feel like we're not just, I don't know, shouting into the void. I mean, we're not, because there's like 80 people watching, but yeah.
We're not just pissing into the wind, folks. We are actually making some... No, honestly, I've seen bigger YouTubers use our arguments. Now, I don't know if they're original to them. It's just a little bit interesting. Or if it's just floating in the zoosphere. Noosphere, not the zoosphere. The noosphere. Or if they've figured it out for themselves. Sometimes I really doubt the figured it out for themselves idea with some of them. But... oh man, that was really catty. But anyway, it's out there. We're putting it out there. We're plugging away at it every month, making sure that these streams happen, so that at least somebody can fall into our little corner of the universe, and hopefully people will wake up and realize that you got to do the work, and it's not easy. Like it's not easy to question fundamental aspects of your identity, but that's the work that needs to be done to fix this. It's why we do everything else but that.
Yep.
And it's why the conservatives can't be relied upon to get anything done. And also why, in many ways, they seem to be leaning on the Muslims now. The Muslims that they were all like up in arms about like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now they're leaning on them to actually get things done. Why is that? It's because Islam actually puts a check to women's victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and says, yeah, no, I don't think so. To some degree. It puts a check on...
No, I think so.
Well, it puts a check on women's victimhood by giving them some kind of standard to live up to.
Yeah, and
something
there's also
beyond themselves.
an expectation that women participate, you know, in their society and do so
positively,
like, selflessly. Yeah, in a positive way. Sorry, but that's just the truth. You know, they are better about that. Anyway,
Israel is better about that. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but I like look at what Israeli women are willing to do for Israel. And I'm not saying that like this is in any way like an disparagement on any other group of women, but no, actually it is. But what Israeli women are willing to do for Israel is pretty actually impressive. I'm not like pro any particular nationality. I just noticed that like the service that they're willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
The obligation that they feel to their communities and their religion. And I think that's also paralleled with, the obligation that Muslim women feel to their communities and their religion.
Yeah.
You know, and possibly that's contributes to some of the conflict, but it's still admirable.
Yeah.
To have that external expectation of responsibility.
Yep.
Okay. We got another
super. I got another super chow from Zeranx, and he gives us $5.
We still have one paragraph left.
Huh?
We still have one paragraph left.
I know. Let me just do this, and then we'll knock out the last paragraph. He gives us $5 and says, "Exactly, Allison. That and Walsh knows Mulvaney is male, and that's his focus of attack. He won't address the fact that feminists and women's tacit agreement made Dylan Mulvaney what he is today. Female victimhood is being conveyed to Mulvaney, and Walsh's chivalric stance prevents him from addressing the necessary culprit. Jordan Peterson said, 'We're in the fantasy of a 13-year-old girl years ago.' So we're living in the fantasy of a 13-year-old girl, is what he's saying. No one wanting to fight conservatives, anti-red pill types, acknowledge that." All right.
Yeah, what we do. Like yeah. Honestly, they talk about, strong men create good times create weak men create bad times, bad times create strong men. Actually, what seems to be, in my opinion, I don't think men necessarily change that much in terms of their courage and their willingness to put a shoulder to the work. Because, even when you look at the communist men, they're the ones out there getting Molotov cocktails thrown in their faces. Have you noticed that? They're the ones doing the fighting.
Yeah.
And they're the ones doing the sacrificing for the generally communist female ringleaders. So men always have this in them. There was nothing that early 19th or 20th century society could do to prepare young men for World War I, and yet they still went in and stood up to that. That's innate. That's inherent to the beast. There's no weak men. What happens is that a society becomes a victim of its own success. It gives women so much that it ends up giving parts of its own fucking anatomy to them. It's like, oh, you've got the fruit of my labor. You've got the sweat of my brow. You've got the fruit of my fields. You've got, you no longer have to labor. You have all of this. Well, take my lungs, take my guts, take my heart. Oh, wait, I'm dead. Well, yeah. When we get to the point where there's nothing left to give women, so we start giving them things that are essential to the functioning of society. Like positions, not based on their merit, but just because they want them. And then we start, and it's not that women can't do these things. It's that they can't do them in this context. They can't do them when we are all operating under these unexamined instincts. Okay? We can't, that just doesn't work. If we examine them and say, okay, we are going to figure out how to keep this in check and make sure that we're giving things to women based on their merit and not because they are women, you see the difference? Then we can move forward safely. Yeah, and that's that, like Rome managed to do that for a while. I mean, even Eastern Rome, like Rome was a pretty, they went for a pretty good time, and they had some of the most liberated women, at least economically, on the planet at the time. So they managed it. We can manage it. We just have to maybe take a page from their book, like that woman said, how they just, they were a little skeptical with women's victimhood. I mean, if a woman, for example, apparently in Rome, if a woman was a productive member of society, she actually got protections. If she was a businesswoman, they actually gave legal protections to businesswomen that other women didn't have. But maybe they were a bit more skeptical when women, cried, and that worked. If we actually entertain some skepticism from women's claims of victimhood, we start to move from giving them things because we think they're weak to giving them things because we think they're strong and productive. Okay.
Yeah,
there's my
absolutely.
rant.
All right. Double checking to make sure I didn't miss any other super chats. Okay, so we're good to go. All right.
Last paragraph.
Yeah. Over the coming years, so this is a continuation of the previous statement about, there's people pushing back and it's worrying, but it's okay because they're going to fall in line at some point. Over the coming years, we will continue to measure this shift, and I hope that we will see this discomfort. It's not discomfort. It's an understanding of what is unjust. We'll see this discomfort shift to acceptance that achieving gender equality is an essential evolution for British society.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Gender equality. A gender equality that comes from, if it's even possible, but comes from actually measuring both sides. Instead of just measuring one side and insisting the other side is always more equal.
I'm checking out the comments because I'm curious.
Sorry, Skippy's my dog's Scipio is having many commentaries.
Yeah, he's got a lot to add to this conversation. I get it.
Yeah.
Oh man, did you hear that? Based and dog pilled.
Based and dog pilled. Let me see if I can get him to maybe chill on the ranting.
It looks like the comments aren't really that cancerous. I think that's why they're worried. Because there are people being reasonable. So, do you want me to read any?
Yeah. Sure, go ahead. Read a few comments. I don't think we're going to get to that second article that we were looking at. Maybe for another day.
We can do that.
It's actually probably worth its own show.
I bet it would be. Okay, Jim says in the comments, rights and preferential treatment are opposing concepts. Using preferences to obtain some concept of equality is demeaning to the group that is the target. Well, okay, so he's saying that, women are being demeaned because they're not doing that for men. So, I guess, but I'm kind of tired of constantly talking about how this affects women. So, Kay says you can blame the division on the media. They make up controversies and give the spotlight to extremists. There are 300 million Americans. Remember, this is in the UK, Kays. And yet the 2,000 on Twitter that tweet somehow represent the country according to the media. All right. I guess. Yeah. Matthew says, I had once heard a saying that when equality occurs, it feels like oppression to those whom always had privilege. Women are going to college more than men. That's not a bad thing. That says more women are able to achieve just as men have always been allowed to. We also had some of the world's best technology and strongest economies. When all are allowed to participate on the merits of their strengths and not superficial criteria, not applicable to success, everybody benefits. Just look at the Taliban and how well they're doing. Okay, well, Jack says, correct. Privilege is invisible to the recipients. They see that as normal. Women represent 50% of the human population, and they should be represented more or less at 50% on every level in our society just by simple statistics. What a retarded thing to say. Jamie responds saying, are they 50% of the plumbers, road construction workers, military, factory workers, police, etc.? Do they pay 50% of the bills in the average relationship? Well, are they are they giving 50% of the, are they being taken for 50% of the taxes as men? I mean, this guy didn't say that, but that's what I would have said.
Okay, here's my commentary about that. Okay, so women have all of the supposed freedoms that men used to have, but do they have the obligations, the legal obligations to their spouses, the legal obligations to certain behavior towards their spouses? Because despite what feminists say, there was always a control on the level of violence a man was allowed to express in his relationship. There was no control on the level of violence a woman was allowed to express. She could be as violent as she wanted. It was usually considered his fault.
Mm-hmm.
So his behaviors were closely monitored. Her behaviors were not. And if he were to find a loophole to benefit himself, usually that loophole very rapidly got closed by the political and legal will of the time. So are any of these expectations, now that women have all of the benefits that they so-called said men enjoyed, and incidentally, I don't think it really was, for the most part throughout human history, men were productive in order to have access to relationships with women. You know, they wanted to be able to have families. That's why they did what they did. So it wasn't that the job itself was the benefit. I think this is what really, I think, has caused a lot of resentment from women. They just never really understood why men did what they did. The job itself wasn't the benefit. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, even exciting jobs like being the head man of a caravan or, sailing around the Horn of Africa were incredibly dangerous. And I imagine there were some significant moments where those guys regretted what they chose to do. Not that they often had a choice. Often their families would, go out, perform, or don't come back. But the point is that what motivated men wasn't necessarily the job. It was the wife that he wanted to have a wife. He wanted to have children. So the real reward for men was getting a woman and getting children and family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think women realized that when they took these jobs over, that these jobs are awful in many cases. They're not worth having. They're only worth having because at the end of the day, they give a man a greater opportunity of being able to support a wife and child.
Well, that's why women tend to, they tend to have children and settle down and leave the workplace the workforce because it's not gratifying, and I mean because they're not doing it for anyone unless you have an arrangement where the woman is the one that's the provider, and that does happen sometimes, but a lot of times even in that instance they become resentful of the men. So I guess I'm not against women being independent career moms or whatever, but just try to be realistic, because that's the thing. This is maybe part of the reason why women make less than men, because they quit or they go part-time or whatever, right? Because then they either want to have kids or they don't want to be the girl boss anymore and they want to settle down. Men don't have that option, really.
Okay, is there any good comments after that? Because I could send you a video.
A
And
video?
a video
Do
that
you
we can
want do
end
you want to
on.
watch a video, or do you want to look at that other article?
No, I think it's gonna be like that other article's gonna be like another hour and a half.
All
You
right.
wanna
Yeah, we
do,
can just
yeah.
do another show on that then.
Yeah, and it's actually, to be honest, a little preview on the other article. I found an article about I think a trans man, perhaps, or a gender non-binary woman and or man. I can't really tell. Sorry, it's not because they haven't been clear. It's because I was just reading the article and you can't tell from the article itself. They spoke about their experiences being harassed by cis women. And I was reading this and I was thinking, well, you realize that this is the experience of a lot of cis men when it comes to women as well. And I thought that might be an interesting thing to talk about, because it seems like, first of all, yes, this happens. This kind of harassment, cis women do engage in this kind of harassment. Non-transgender women do engage in this kind of harassment, not just towards men who are non-binary or trans women, but towards men who are cis too. So I wanted to clarify that, because we have the statistical evidence of that, and also look at how this individual is bringing attention to these issues, but doing so in such a way that cis women are actually saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," rather than what we usually get, which is it's a competition, stop playing oppression Olympics, we're the ones who are the real victimized ones, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, I sent a video. This is the Drew Barrymore show, I think. Yeah.
How did you send it?
I don't know if you've seen. I sent it to you via Discord. Yeah, DM. I slid into your DMs there.
Oh, is this it's the Drew Barrymore thing.
Yeah. I don't know. You want to take a look at that? I don't think it's very long.
I mean, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can open this in a web browser. Hold on.
Yeah.
You send it to me as a file. So.
Oh, you know what? I think I can do this. Just give me a second. Like, I think I can solve.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah,
you got it.
I got
all right. Okay. Can I actually see it?
I'm going to share my browser with you
excellent.
right now. So, fun.
Are you guys enjoying this look into the behind the curtain? I mean, you see it a lot.
Well, they can't. No, I'm not sharing that with them. Now I am. I'm still professional, Allison. I try. Okay, so this is Dylan Mulvaney on the Drew Barrymore's daytime show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna watch what, the whole thing? I mean, we can. Can I change the playback speed to like maybe 1.25?
Well, if you know where the zaniness starts, we can always go to that.
Well, do you know when that is?
No, I'm not offhand.
I'm playing it at 1.25 speed. It shouldn't be a problem. So.
Okay, you can go to about 1:15, I think.
Let me.
All right.
I've seen some of this because my favorite part is when Drew Barrymore makes it about herself. Okay, so let's go.
Something out there before you're ready, and really just surrounding yourself with good people. It's interesting because I look at someone like you,
and I can't. The hand holding. This is like daytime TV. Like the woman, tell me more. I'm so, and she's like leaning in. I think that shit's hilarious because they always do it. Oprah does it. You know, Sally Jesse Raphael. She's not working anymore, but
this is just. I feel free to mock this because this is just the worst aspects of femininity.
Yeah.
I mean, this is as obnoxious as the young men who drive on a residential street at like 80 miles an hour with their jacked up freaking trucks and the giant wheels blaring country rap or whatever the hell that freaking auditory monstrosity is. So I feel free to, because this is the most unself-examined femininity out there. Okay, let's do it.
For sure.
Anybody disliking you?
Oh, please. Do you want to know, ironically, who...
Look at why is she kneeling? What is that? This is like some of the cringiest shit I've ever seen. And
dislikes me.
You know it's phony. I mean, you know it's phony. So
she's taking a knee.
Yeah, she's taking both knees.
Myself.
Oh, me too.
Oh yeah, let me go back. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I missed that
God.
part where she says, "You know who?"
Disliking you.
Oh, please. Do you want to know, ironically, who dislikes me the most sometimes?
Who?
Myself.
Oh, me too.
Oh, God, what a martyr!
We're hugging. We're hugging.
guess-
Damn, Dylan Mulvaney is gigantic. That's a big lady.
Amazon. Yeah,
You've asked me now, like,
I'm sure that's a fetish.
you've asked me, like, what I would do to
Snoo
combat the
snoo
hate,
time.
right? Yeah. But what do
I
you
like how they're sitting on the like. They may as well like be having a pillow fight right now. It's not you.
Oh my God.
Oh, people are saying that they're reaching levels of cringe that shouldn't be possible.
Oh, I think we're gonna find more levels here.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
that's a great question. Now, I started...
You've been doing it a little longer than I have.
Well, it's funny because when I was a kid, you starting with E.T., it was the first time I was introduced to film reviews, which are basically social media.
Yes.
But I felt like all these reviews, and could be a Charlie's Angels, it could be an E.T.
Okay, all
it
right,
could
stop.
She's
Okay,
making
so
it about her.
you-
And oh, by the
Yeah,
way,
well, I mean, she did ask, but like,
yeah, I know.
Dylan did ask, but also film reviews are not social media. They are basically performance reviews for your craft as an actor.
Yeah, she's trying
Yeah,
to
you
draw
suck that
parallels
shit
that aren't
up.
there.
No, there's not. You suck that
And
shit
also
up, lady.
like to say, oh yeah, E.T. Like that movie wasn't just popular. It was a fucking cultural phenomenon when it came out. There was merch, there were toys, there was a terrible video game. It was everywhere. Everyone loved that movie. So I don't know how she's like, the critics. What are you talking about?
Okay, let's see how she spins this.
Yeah.
be The Wedding Singer, everything in between. If
Wedding
you read
Singer's good,
reviews,
too.
Just like on social media, you are pretty much guaranteed a 50-50. Some like it, some don't. So you've got to be willing to bear down and brace for it. And I think
picking your battles too.
Yes.
And sometimes I think the greatest response can just be in the next
God.
Joyous video or
I think
in the
I've
next win.
discovered an organ that processes cringe. I think I'm like really feeling it. I'm feeling the dimensions of this organ inside me because it is definitely spasming.
Yeah.
It's the cringe and the cringe-anel or something. Who knows?
Yep.
Oh God, this
she was
is
also
awful.
in Poltergeist and Charlie's Angels, which I also liked. Yes, I liked the first Charlie's Angels.
I just, honestly, this individual, this person has identified as a woman for 1 year, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
That you have, because that just goes to show that like you are continuing on, and whatever that those people are projecting onto you, it isn't actually penetrating.
I couldn't agree more.
Jesus
because another
Christ.
thing that you're making me realize is to not carry on in spite of others.
I'm sorry, I just realized that I'm sitting on the floor with Drew.
I'm so happy you're doing this. Thank you for joining me on the floor. The floor always feels safer.
It feels nice.
Let me
What?
ask you.
She said the
always
floor is
feels-
safer?
Okay. Can I just point out that I've been reading a lot of stuff where people are like, "Oh my God, this is the patriarchy. You're taking a knee to a man." Yeah, I think you're exaggerating this here. This is just really, really girly shit.
It's cringe.
I mean, it doesn't even like if this individual wasn't a trans woman, it would still be freaking cringy.
Yeah, if it was like a regular woman, yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? And it's got this patina of, I don't know, like this kind of, how to describe it. It's like that cutesy contempt sort of quality to it. You know what I mean? It's
this clip?
saccharine contempt. But
saccharine.
Saccharine. Yes, saccharine contempt.
Yeah.
You know? There needs to be a word for it. It's like this nauseating kind of, but it's saccharine, but it's also like matronizing. You know? That's actually probably the word it should be. Matronizing. It's not the expectation that you don't know what you're doing. It's the expectation that you need to be treated like an infant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, Okay. All right. So that is that, friends.
that happened. Yeah.
That is a thing that just occurred. All right.
Okay,
Let me just double check and see where we're at.
Yeah, check to see. I don't have any super things right now. Let me go to the where she's holding her hand because it's great.
I think we might have got something new. No, it looks like we got everything. Got indoors, Xerix. Okay.
There we go.
Oh God, let's end on that. All right, so thank you to the Great Endures and thank you to Health Potion Addict for helping us out this month. If you would like to join our very generous supporters, please go to feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to leave us a tip anytime after the show, if you want to send a message because you like something that we said or you want to add to it, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right, back to you, Brian.
All right, so if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. Leave us a comment. I think that the comments are great. I've seen some good ones, and I want to hear your thoughts on the study, and I guess on this video clip. I look forward to seeing it, and most importantly, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.